Alright, so I'm kind of in the middle of getting ready, so yeah, I haven't even done my mascara, but I wanted to sit down and film this video for you guys. In case you're wondering, I'm getting ready to go have like an early lunch with my sister-in-law, with my daughter and my niece and nephew, because it was her birthday like a week and a half ago, and so we're just like gonna go celebrate my sister-in-law's birthday. The reason why we waited so long is just for my daughter to come home, so this was like the plan. But anyways, so that's what I'm like kind of getting ready for, and I wanted to do a story time for today. I had like actually mentioned it that I was going to do this video, and I realized that the time that I had told this was so long ago, and then I think I told you guys the update. I guess I'll call it an update to the story that I learned years later. But I don't remember if I shared that update, but I do know that they're not like together, the story and this update. So, and it was so long ago, and I have so many new subscribers, so I thought I would tell this story again, especially since I'm trying to see if you guys are crooked or not, but especially since there was this video that I watched on TikTok that sparked this. Even though this TikTok sparked this, I still think about what happened a lot, because it literally haunts me. So tell you guys, I don't know if it's like in the title or like what I did, but basically this is the story time about the time that I was on my family vacation in Florida and saw something in the water that freaked me out. Something I had never seen before, and gut instinct, I knew that what I was looking at in that very moment was like, I don't even know how to explain it. I just knew that what I was looking at wasn't something that anyone probably had ever seen before. Like, that's what I felt. So let me take a step back and tell you guys about the TikTok and like why it sparked it. So this girl was telling her story of the time that she was in Jamaica and swears up and down that she saw a mermaid. She talked about the whole scene of her and her brother and her cousin or something walking, and then like there was this like riverbank that went to the ocean. I don't really know, but basically there was like this boat down in the water, and you could kind of see down in there, and she kind of explains that she swears she saw a mermaid kind of deal. So, and of course, like I said, that sparked my thought. So let me just take you guys to the scene, okay? So this was a long time ago, actually. I don't even remember the year. Somewhere in the bucket of, I don't even know, 2015, 2016. Somewhere in that range, because it wasn't the last house, but it was the house before. So it's been a long time since this has happened. And that year, my family and I, we always go to Florida for our like family reunion kind of thing. And that year, my stepdad had rented a kayak. Actually, he likes to rent kayaks all the time so he can go fishing. This one particular year, he had rented like a 2-person kayak, and it was also the year like my brother went. So yes, it was the year my brother went, because they were gonna do like the kayak fishing thing together. And then when my brother went out there, I think he got seasick is like what happened. So they came back, and I felt bad obviously for both of them. And so the next day I was like, I'll go out with you, to my stepdad. I was like, I'll go out fishing with you in the water. You know, because he's got this 2-person kayak. So anyways, so that's basically how I ended up doing this, because let me tell you, it's not something I for sure want to do. I do not want to fish. That does not interest me in any way, shape, or form. And actually there's another funny part to this story, so I'm just going to tell you guys the whole thing. So we're on the beach and we are trying to get this kayak going, and it's really hard because the waves are coming in. They're not soft that day. They are really coming in. And we're trying to go, and I get in the kayak, which that was our first mistake, was getting in too soon. We should have like kept pulling it further out of the waves and then getting in and then paddling out, because what immediately happened was a wave came in, took us out, dumped us out. I fell out, he fell out, we're under the water, everything's going everywhere. Fishing poles, and one of the fishing poles got lost. And it's funny because it happened so quick, and you're thinking how, you know, in that moment, like, how could a fishing pole get swept up that fast? But that's honestly how scary the ocean can be. And the pole was gone. I'll get back to the fishing pole later. So anyways, we finally make it out, and I'm already, y'all, I am already a mess. Actually, this was also the year, I think, that I got the sun poisoning. Wow, I didn't realize how deep this story time would be. I did. I got sun poisoning like almost right off the bat, I think the second day that we were there, and I was sick the entire time. Like, I didn't get to come out of the house for a while. And then when I decided to go on the kayak with my stepdad, I was covered. Because I remember having on a full everything. I had a hat, had a big floppy hat. I had, none of my skin was exposed. I had a towel over my legs. Like, it was that bad. It was honestly like the worst sickness I'd ever felt. And I've had some sick times, like most of y'all already know. So that should tell you something. Sun poisoning is no joke. We finally get past the crashing waves. We lose a fishing pole. I feel bad because, you know, he loves his poles. But anyways, whatever. So we finally get out there, and, you know, I'm just chilling. You know, at first I'm like, oh, like, this is nice. I'm just gonna sit here. And that's all I was doing, really. I was just like sitting there. And, you know, he was throwing out his little cast, because what he was doing was he was trying to catch the bait, then to use the bait to catch the fish. So he was throwing out his net to try to catch like the bait at the top of the water. And so we were moving around quite a bit, you know, because he could kind of see in the water like where they were going. And I was just chilling in the front, he was in the back. And then next thing I know, really can't see land anymore. And that's when I started to panic, because as much as I love the beach, I mean, knee deep, y'all. Knee deep is like the extent. And I'm talking like in clear water too. Like, it's frightening for me. So so immediately I'm starting to realize the situation I'm in, and how quickly all of a sudden we really couldn't see land. Like, you don't have to go that far out really to not see the shore. So anyways, my mind's all of a sudden weighed by the gravity of the situation I'm in. And I'm just like, okay, you know, if we tip over, and that was really my concern. My concern was, am I gonna fall out? That had actually happened to me once when my brother and I were younger, and we went on a family vacation with my grandparents to the Virgin Islands. We were in a kayak with like these kids that we met, and they thought it would be funny to like tip it over, and I freaked out. And I remember that the kayak also turned over, and it's like, yeah, it's hard, or that kayak was hard to like flip back over, and I was freaking out the whole time. So anyways, that's in my head. And so then the whole time I'm literally scanning. Like, that's all I'm doing. I'm scanning the water for fins. And so I'm just like hyper focused on this, and I'm trying to just like keep my mouth shut because I don't want to ruin it for him. And I know, you know, how much like he wanted to do this fishing thing. And so you know, and I guess he could have gone out by himself, but I think because of it being a 2-person kayak, it just would have made it harder, and maybe like weight wise, I really don't know. So that's like basically why I went. I'll tell you this, he got a 1-person kayak, I think, after this. But so I am sitting there in this water freaking out, you know, I really can't see land. I'm not seasick at all, so that's not happening to me. But I'm literally like, I can't stop at this point. And I'm just sitting looking, and then I actually see a fin, and I was just like, oh my God, did you see that? Did you see that? And he was like, it's a dolphin, it's a dolphin. And so I look, and it's moving like this. So I knew that was a dolphin. And that's key in this story, because movement of, you know, of what goes on in the ocean is a big indicator to tell you what it is that you're looking at. So anyways, and then I instantly kind of feel better, because I'm like, okay, they usually say that if there's dolphins around, there's typically not sharks around. I don't know how true that is, but like that's what I remember thinking in that time. And so I kind of was able to take a breath, because at this point I was a nervous wreck. Like, I was so tense, and I was just, honestly, a part of me was on the verge of tears. You know, there I am again, just kind of scanning everything. My eyes are not moving. And the reason why I keep reiterating this is because then I see it. And I know, but I also don't know what I'm looking at, if that makes sense. So he's still trying to catch bait. He never got the pull out, basically. Did he? Was he casting out his line? I don't remember, irrelevant to the story, but he's busy basically behind me. And I see this thing pop up kind of out of the water a little bit. So this is the water, and it's kind of like skimming the water. And he's just looking right at me. And I'm like, what is that? What is that? What is that? And so he sees it, okay? And we're sitting there looking at this thing, and I know immediately, I'm like, I've never seen anything like that before. And I couldn't even describe it if I wanted to. And that's, I think, like the most frustrating thing about this, is that it was just the most bizarre thing. Like, if you could create or draw a sea creature out of Lord of the Rings, I guess, I would say that it, if that makes sense, like something out of something in the ponds of the Lord of the Rings. Like, it was just something I'd never seen before. It was very bizarre, and it was just floating. That's it. It wasn't moving. It had, as a matter of fact, I never heard it. It never made any sound. It never flapped. And I'm trying to remember if I remember seeing it pop up or not. But I don't know, maybe I have to go back to the first time I told this story, because obviously I told that story like right after it happened, because I came home and I was like, oh my God, and I told this story to you guys. But I don't recall that right now. But anyways, so I'm telling him, I'm like, you see that, right? I'm like, you see that. It wasn't moving. It was, the waves around it weren't moving. It was just floating. Almost like what you would expect just for like trash to be doing. But this wasn't trash. And it's funny because at first I was like, is that trash? Because it just looked so odd and kind of misplaced. But then I saw eyes, and it was, if I had to describe the size of this, it's hard to say again because I only saw what was peeking over the surface, and it had that way about it. Like, it was just like doing this kind of thing. And so I didn't see very much of it. But I saw enough to know It wasn't a shark, it wasn't a dolphin, it wasn't a turtle. You know, and it's kind of like, it wasn't a whale, so what else could it have been? And so, and it wasn't a fish, right? A lot of fish behave kind of erratically and flop around, that kind of thing. They're constantly moving, right? And that's the other thing. Like, you know, you also have to take into account that this thing is not moving. And so that's, you know, an indicator that you can kind of cross certain things off. And it's literally doing what a human would do essentially in water. Like, we could essentially be kind of like suspended there, you know, while kind of flapping our feet underneath the water or something to kind of keep us up. But this thing was just not moving. It was literally just there. And I forget my stepdad's reaction. I'm sure, again, it's in that original video. I'll find it and I'll link it down below. But I remember he was just like keeping me calm, I think. And I don't remember. I don't remember if I should have watched this video. I know I'm diving off, but I feel like this is important because the update actually came from him a few years later. But I remember he was trying to keep me calm. I mean, he had served in the military, so, and that was actually in my mind too at the time. I was just like, okay, I was like, I don't know what the hell is in that water. I don't know what the hell that thing is, but he was in the military, and if anything goes wrong, like, in my mind, I was like, he's gonna save me, you know, like, that was that in my head. So, but at this point, I'm really scared. And then it just goes back in the water. So it can't be trash. Trash can't suddenly float up and then suddenly float down. Especially when the waves weren't moving, nothing was going on in these waters. I mean, it was flat. And again, it had eyes. It was looking at me. So trash it was not. And the reason why I compare it in a way to trash is because it was just so, yeah, I couldn't even describe this thing because it was so bizarre looking. And so anyways, then here it is, peeking, doing this, okay, literally not moving. And then slowly, because I'm watching this go down, very slowly, very controlled, he starts, or whatever it is, starts to go under the water. And then gone. Never saw it again. And I remember watching it just move, and it moved straight down. Didn't move out, didn't move forward, didn't move back. It was up, down, and again, painfully slow. And so I'm just like, at this point I'm freaked out because now I don't have my eyes on it. I don't know where it's going. I don't know what the hell's happening. And I'm telling him, like, you know, I'm done. I think I'm done, like, you know. So we go back in, and of course the whole time I'm paddling. I am like, yep, to the shore we go, you know. And yeah, I should have watched this video, honestly, because I'm sure I have more details on maybe conversation or like whatever went down between me and my stepdad. Here's what I remember. I remember him basically alluding to the fact that it was fine, it wasn't a big deal, it was nothing. That was what he was doing. He was trying to keep me calm. You know, I'm sure his training or whatever kicked in because I'm freaking out at this point. And he's just like, I'm just gonna grab my journal real quick, but he's just essentially trying to, you know, keep me calm. And so we finally make it back to land. And just to circle back to the fishing pole, so later on, you know, the helicopters always drive by the shores to kind of watch for marine life, essentially. And there was a point where this was the next day, I believe, and it was actually it was the end of our trip, because I'd spent the majority of our trip in the house from the sun poisoning. And so there we are, and this helicopter is, you know, all they do is fly by. They fly by, they fly back. When they stop and start circling, you're kind of like, oh my God, what's in that water, right? So, and kind of right in front of us, and we had like parked ourselves kind of in the same spot day after day, and the helicopter comes by and then starts circling like not too far from where we were at. And it circles and circles and circles, and we're like, everyone's watching. Everyone's like, what's out there? What did they see? And then finally, helicopter goes away, nothing happens, the flag doesn't change. And I looked at him, I was like, I bet that was your fishing pole. You know, maybe in the water they weren't sure what that was. I was like, I bet that was your fishing pole. Or who knows, maybe it was that thing. Like, I just, at that time, I remember thinking, I bet that's your fishing pole. And at first, I was like, it's this story.
You know, in the water, so we paddle out really far. So far, I could barely see land.
Okay, so I just watched it back, and oh, it's cringy. Like, I wouldn't even go watch it. But anyways, so basically in the story, I say that the same thing, except I was describing it more and I had kind of forgotten. But in that, I said that it looked yellowy and orange, which is interesting. Yeah, I completely don't even remember that part. My memory of it now is very murky. And so, but apparently, you know, that's fresh. So it was yellow or orange. And I did compare it the most to an octopus in that video because it just looked very bizarre. So in that video, I talked about how, you know, my stepdad was trying to keep me calm. We go back. And this part, my memory gone. I don't even remember this. But in that video, I talked about how the next day, my stepdad went back out. I guess he went back out by himself this time. And he said that he saw it again. And that he also didn't know really what it was. But what I remember is that during this trip, my stepdad still was just like, oh yeah, you know, it's like not a big deal, and I don't really remember. He was very cool about it. He's a very calm person. So the update was that several years later, we were on our vacation again and it came back up. And he had admitted to me, he was just like, yeah, he was like, I knew we needed to get out of there immediately. And that made my heart beat. And I was so glad that he didn't tell me that he was also worried and that he was trying to get us out of there. Because if he had told me that at the time, I would have been a nervous wreck. But he said, he was like, yeah, he was like, I saw it and I also cannot really explain what we saw. And he was like, I knew we needed to get out of the water immediately. So, so that was kind of like a validation in a way for me that I knew what we saw was unorthodox. Like what we saw was just not something that you would just kind of expect to see. And especially in essentially so close to the shore. You know what I mean? You're not, there's, the depth isn't, that's not like the deepest part of the ocean in the world. You know, like maybe you could kind of expect to see more bizarre random things in parts of the ocean that are deeper. But this was very odd. And at one point I had considered like a manatee, I guess. But even in my mind, I'm just like, my gut says what I saw was bizarre. But, and in that video, I also mentioned that the next day, again, I have no memory of this, but the next day he goes back out by himself and he sees it again. And I'm just like, he sees it again, apparently, is what he tells me on this trip. But he doesn't tell me until a few years later that, because he was still, I remember he was still trying to play it off like, oh, it was probably this, or, you know, like he was really playing it cool. But then a couple years later, he admitted that what we saw was not normal. And I was just like, really? So yeah, that's the story time. And I wish I had an answer. I wish I knew what that was. Let me split it in two ways. Let me give you guys a logical answer and I don't know, maybe, how do I call this? Like a mystery answer? I don't really know. Logically saying that, you know, everything was what we know it to be, I guess you could say. It could have been either an octopus or a manatee. I would say that would be the closest range, but even then, it's not, if that makes sense. But if I could give you guys what I thought it would be falling under this logical bucket, I would say that. On the flip side, where if anything could be possible, I don't know what the hell I saw. Like, I can't say if it was a mermaid. I didn't see enough of it. Like I said, it barely like skimmed the surface. And actually in that video, I did describe that it kind of like moved like this, which is interesting. So it's sitting here bobbing, you know, it's probably just kind of like going with the current a little bit. And then, boop, gone, like, what? But like what moves like that in the ocean? What moves like that? What sinks down? You know, fish usually will go out. They'll go forward or sideways. You know, like what sinks straight down? You know, like if we were at a pool and at a resort and we just kind of wanted to dunk our heads, we could do that as humans, right? Our bodies can move like that through the water. We can just go, whoop, sink straight down. So did I see some type of mermaid? But it's, sorry, I hit the tripod, but it's not like the kind of mermaids we imagine. I don't know. I just know that what my eyes saw wasn't normal. And I personally never saw it again. He clearly saw it after that. I never again went out on that water, so that's that. It is, and I still think about this a lot till this day. It's something where if, as much as I can try to tell you guys the story and tell you the fear and tell you like how mind-boggling it was to see something like this, unless you're there and you see it, it's still not the same thing. Because even now, like the flashes of memory of what I do have, even though the color is no longer in my memory, it's just like weird how my memory works, but I'll never forget what I felt, how scared I was, and how weird of what I was seeing. yeah, it's just, I wish I knew. I wish I knew what I was looking at. Unfortunately, I don't. So, but anyways, that's the story time. Definitely comment any of your marine life story times. But yeah, so that's that. Like I said, this all kind of sparked from that TikTok video of the girl talking about a mermaid. If a mermaid is supposed to be the typical scale, fin, half fish, half human kind of thing, I don't know if that's what I saw. I didn't see the bottom part of this thing. I have no idea how big it was. I only saw a very small portion of what this was. So and then I think, do I wish I would have seen more? Honestly, I really don't. I really don't know. I was frightened, and that's the crazy part, right? Of what little I saw, it was enough. It was enough to know that it wasn't unlike anything I'd ever seen before. And it was enough to induce that much fear in me. So can you imagine if I had saw 50% of this thing, or all of it? I'm thinking there's a reason I didn't. You know what I mean? Like, because till this day, I know, like, while telling the story is, you know, a story time, but I still know the gravity of, like, what the hell was that? Like, so anyways, that's the story time. Yeah, this happened a long time ago. So anyways, that's the story time. I hope you guys enjoyed. I definitely love telling you guys stories. I think you guys love hearing my stories. I've done a lot of like ghost ones, by the way. I think I have a story time playlist in case you just want to, you know, chill on the couch and just kind of veg and like go through all of those videos that I've ever posted. So I'll link the playlist down below, and then YouTube will just like automatically start playing them back to back for you. There's more story times I know that I could definitely do, so I'll definitely do some more for you guys in the future. But yeah, and I guess just to be clear, the update was that a few years later my stepdad admitted that he still doesn't know what we saw, and that it wasn't, because again, I remember him specifically trying to in that moment be like, oh, it was probably this or probably that, you know, he was like, but years later he admitted that it was serious enough that he felt we needed to get out of the water, and that yeah. So when you got two people looking at the same thing and you don't know what the hell it is. Also, just to go back to the manatee thing too, we had actually seen a manatee one year. I don't remember what year it was, but I remember watching it move through the water, and it was not this. So, you know, if we go back to this bucket where I said an octopus or a manatee, like, honestly, we could strike out a manatee because it was not that. So it leaves an octopus. Wouldn't it be hilarious if like that's what it was? But again, yellow, orange. This thing just looked unique on its own. On its own, let me tell you. So anyways, that's that. That's the story time. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.